So someone was asking about in a DM, the Resident Evil Left 4 Dead crossover, Resident Evil 6. And so there's an interesting part to that, because there's an interesting thing of when we talk about cultures, and not just countries, but companies, of how can you make each other comfortable, but yet each get what you want. And so in this case, if you're not familiar with it, Resident Evil 6 has, I think it's a DLC that has the Left 4 Dead characters in it. And then Left 4 Dead has the Resident Evil creatures in it, and actually a lot more now, through the workshop. And so one of the classic things at Valve is I'm the only one working on Left 4 Dead at the time. Kerry worked on it a lot with me during that period, but I think there was like some period he had to go off on something, so I had nothing. I didn't even have artist support. I think Matt Scott, the animator, helped me do some rigging, and that was it. And otherwise, it was just like, hey! And the Capcom people originally thought we would make the creatures in our game and they would make the characters in their game. But I knew I didn't have any resources, so I would just have to keep saying, well, hey, we're going to do this crossover where we're going to let the community do it. We'll have a contest, we'll promote it, and we'll promote your game that way. And there's some trepidation at first because they're not a company that at that point had done a lot of mods and kind of embraced it and everything. But I just kept being like, I got no other options, right? I mean, this is one of those, like, here's your problem. How do you solve it? Well, this is the only way. Like, right, it wasn't like I was going to go hire somebody. It wasn't like I was going to go, hey, can I get a budget for this or something? I was like, no, I can solve this. I can solve this, right? And some of what I talk about on this channel about like problem solving is I think this is a really good example where I was actually smart for once. And so, yeah, eventually they were like, yeah, let's do this. We'll do this. But so that they felt comfortable in their game, they created the content that appeared there. We did have approval, and they did a really great job. They're really talented team. And then for what came in our game, I was okay with saying, hey, the workshop's going to vote on this and they'll be okay with it. And if the community's okay with it, because they're already building Resident Evil stuff and they're just getting flagged for DMC violations, right? So if we could get that accepted, and what they did was they built more than just the creatures. You'll see there's a whole bunch of, if you ever wonder why there's a bunch of Resident Evil 6 stuff in the workshop, it's because of that. Because Capcom said, oh, this is just cool. Yeah, we'll let all this in. This just go. This is great. And so it was kind of each company got to be comfortable with the way they were comfortable with it, got to do the work that they wanted, made the investment kind of at the level that they could or would. And I think it was really successful. I was really happy with that. And it's funny is I'm the one who actually like posted up all the creatures into the workshop on my personal account, because that's the way it worked. And I still get notices of messages of people finding this and being like, cool. And that's like a decade later for a workshop mod. Like, that is cool. That is cool. Like, if you ever want to know about like why it's fun to make stuff and see people still enjoying what you're making, a decade later, that's fun. But yeah, so that's how that came out. It really was us not having the resources to do a crossover, and we hadn't really done it, though we've been talking about it some as an experiment to do, but this was another way to do it. Another company wanted to do it. If you notice, Left 4 Dead gets thrown into a lot of crossovers, and that's because I thought that was a really cool thing and a really interesting thing, and kind of wanted to see how far we could take it. And so, I think to the other point, well, I was against that. Go watch the other video, you'll see what I mean. Otherwise, I was totally open for the characters or anything appearing in almost anything. And just kind of seeing how that worked and what that did and kind of how that resonated with people. So, yeah, so the Capcom Resident Evil one was really the one that kicked off a lot of that. But yeah, you've probably seen the Left 4 Dead 2 characters if you've looked, and other IPs along the way, and I would always say yes.